Why is Trudeau rewarding the Chinese government while at the same time punishing Canadians? Chinese state-owned companies that operate businesses here in Canada received funds through the COVID relief programs that Trudeau recklessly created. And good luck at trying to find out how much the Chinese government stole from Canadians. Yes, you heard me correctly. Stole from us. Because that money that the Chinese government took is borrowed money. Borrowed money that Canadians will have to pay for through taxes, inflation, and high interest rates. Wow, now that doesn't sound fair at all, does it? Canadians have a right to know how much the Chinese government stole from us through those COVID relief programs. It seems as if the left-wing extremist Liberal Party of Canada has a history of being cozy with China. In 1997, the RCMP and CSIS accused the Chinese government of purchasing real estate in Canada as a method, as a tactic to use in order to threaten Canada. The Liberal Party of Canada, in that same year, in 1997, not only did it ignore our top spy agencies and their recommended actions, but it put a halt to the classified program Sidewinder, and all the documents associated with that program were destroyed. So fast forward to today, and at the moment, billions of dollars of real estate are in the hands of the Chinese government. But wait, there's more. I'm wondering, is there a connection between Justin Trudeau, Hunter Biden, and the Chinese government and Sinopec? There may be both indirect connections and direct connections. Here's where I need you to stick with me as I lay out the reasons, the possibility of maybe a very real scandal and corruption. Now, those on the left, our own government, Trudeau, and the mainstream media will like to label what I'm about to say as a conspiracy theory, and they would want to label me as a conspiracy theorist. But hey, after spending the last 2 years being forced to swallow their lies, their propaganda, their contradictions, their hypocrisy, and also having a sudden realization that we have spent our entire lives being lied to by the government and the mainstream media about everything from climate change to the cause of wars, elections, taxes, agendas, the purpose of the United Nations, and issues like that, I realize that the government and the mainstream media are the real conspiracy theorists, and they are the ones spreading misinformation and disinformation. It's not us. They're the real culprits. They're the bigger problem in the general scheme of things, right? So here it is. This is what got me started digging. Gas prices are high. Why are gas prices so high all of a sudden? And I don't want to hear that lame excuse that the government and media are pushing, that it's all of Russia's fault. You have to be kidding me. Do you think I'm so stupid? 77% of our gas imports come from the United States. What does Russia have to do with high gas prices? And many countries hold millions of barrels of oil in reserves, or what they call rents, to help manipulate the price of oil, but not to this extent. Not where it raises the price of gasoline by 250% within 18 months or so. I am so shocked, and yet not shocked at all, that our media hasn't gone digging for the real reason. So I want to know why our gas prices went from 80 cents per liter to over $2 a liter. That's $8 per gallon. And the media and government keep on pushing a narrative that it's all Russia's fault. Yeah, every problem that we seem to be having now is blamed on Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Remember the whole Trump-Russia collusion investigation in the US that wasted 2 years and millions of dollars over falsified documents and reports, and there was actually nothing there. Remember that? Okay, so why are gas prices so high? And why is Biden selling millions of barrels of the strategic oil reserve to the government of China? He's selling millions of barrels of oil that's supposed to be saved for times of emergency. Why is Biden and his administration doing that? Almost 1 million barrels of oil were sold to the government of China in the month of April alone. And he continues to keep selling this oil. Why isn't this being investigated? Is this not a treasonous act? And then it begs the next question. Is Hunter Biden still on the board of BHR Rosemont Seneca? Because they invested $1.7 billion into Sinopec. Sinopec is a Chinese government-owned oil and gas company, among other things. Sinopec, which operates oil and gas companies in Canada, specifically Alberta. All right, so a little side note to all those Albertans that think they can just suddenly become the 51st state of the United States because they ask nicely, or who think that they can become their own independent country. Good luck. Good luck to you guys. It's going to take a lot more than that. Because what are you going to do about foreign governments like China, Iran, Turkey, etc. that own most of the province of Alberta? How are you going to deal with that? What, just ask them nicely to leave? Or are you going to live with Chinese government controlling your province? You're going from the frying pan into the fire if you do that. Just realize that whatever your plan is, whatever you think you want to accomplish, it's not an easy path, nor will it be quick. These things take over 100 years to see change, or an all-out war. And I don't see Albertans willing to do either. Research other regions that have tried to do the same thing, like Catalonia in Spain and the state of Jefferson project in California. 100 years later, and both of them, they still haven't reached their goal.
Last week in Eckville, Alberta, with temperatures hovering around 30 degrees below zero, more than 650 people turned out for a Westfed rally. Elmer Knudsen was the main attraction.
The Western dollar, ladies and gentlemen, the economists tell us, will come to about $1.35 vis-a-vis the United States dollar. And if those fellows in the East think they're paying a lot of money for our oil now, just wait till they start buying it with that 50-cent dollar that they're going to get as a result of us leaving.
How many people in this audience really believe in separatism is an open question. Certainly not all of them. But separatists like Knudsen are tapping a stream of prairie populism that runs deep in the political history of Alberta. It's a tradition remembered by the old and embraced by the young.
So I think most people out here don't really want to separate. I think they're almost forced to.
But there's no such thing as a fear tactic, I don't think, going on here. It's just that we have to wake up to something. We have to wake up to the truth.
Well, I think something has to be done, whether it's full separatism and the 4 western provinces federating or what, but something has to be done.
So let's go back to oil. When oil is $68 per barrel, oil companies are making huge profits. An average of $1 trillion per year. And this year, with oil nearing $100 per barrel, oil and gas companies are set to make $2 trillion in profits this year. So again, why are gas prices so high? In Canada, of that $2 per liter of gas that we pay, about 11 cents goes to carbon tax. 7 cents goes to the gas station. So we can't blame the gas stations. They're barely making any money selling gas. That's why these gas stations need to have convenience stores and mechanics on site to help make their businesses profitable. It helps them survive. About 56% of the price of gas goes to the oil and gas companies. 15 to 20% goes for all the taxes. That's with the old price of gas, right? So did taxes go up? It depends on where you live. Yeah, maybe some of the taxes have gone up, but that much? 16% goes to distribution and 14% of what we pay at the pump goes to the refining cost. But if the price of gas is more than doubled, has the taxes doubled? Has the cost of distribution doubled? Or is it the profit to the oil and gas companies that have tripled or something like that? What? I'm trying to understand what just happened with our gas prices. I know that partly it has to do with trading on the exchanges, right? And how much oil is flooding the market and how much is being held back. But something wasn't sitting right with me. I'm not going to settle for that. And then I came across a very interesting statement that Professor Verbruggen said. He said that the oil and gas industry makes $2.8 billion per day on average and has made $52 trillion since 1970. And he says with those type of profits, it enables that industry to buy every single politician and every single system. Could this be what is actually happening at the moment then? Imagine, could Biden have been bought by Sinopec, the Chinese government? Is it possible that Trudeau has been bought by Sinopec and the Chinese government? Biden sells oil to the Chinese government, and maybe they sell it back to Canada and the US. Or are Trudeau and Biden getting kickbacks or part of the profit for some reason, somehow? It would be interesting to find out. Oil exports to China from Canada have increased. So it's my guess, my theory, that something is going on there. And that might be the reason we're paying such high gas prices. China is considered a key exporter in the world of refined petroleum. Refined petroleum is gasoline fuel and diesel fuel. And I don't think many people realize how much China is exporting. They're buying a lot of oil, and in Canada they are producing a lot of oil. But could Trudeau and Biden still profit from selling this oil to Sinopec and assisting Sinopec in any way possible? Remember, as the professor said, oil companies buy politicians. So over in Saudi Arabia, gas is about 62 cents per liter because the government does not tax gas. Instead, over there, it subsidizes gas, because Saudi Arabia realizes that low gas prices help stimulate their economy. Our high gas prices in Canada have nothing to do with Russia. We have not ever really relied on Russia for oil and gas. Not primarily. Not the way the European Union does. And why is Biden blaming Russia for high gas prices? The US is still importing Russian crude oil and gasoline from Russia. Yeah, the amount has decreased slightly, but Russia is exporting the exact same amount of its oil and gas to the world market. The US imports the bulk, 51% of its gasoline from Canada, maybe even directly from Sinopec in Canada, who knows? And most of Canada's imports of oil and gas come from the United States. So why all these diversions? Why all these distractions? Why the appearance of begging the Saudis for help? Why are they wanting to demonize Russia so much? Just for distraction? And when Trudeau said that he wanted to phase out the Canadian energy sector, I think that he really meant that he wanted to phase out Canadians and Canadian ownership of that market in Canada and allow China to take it over. You know, let's buy up Canada. Maybe the same thing will happen in the US under Biden and the left-wing Democrat Party. Maybe they benefit from allowing the Chinese government to buy up oil and gas and farmland and agricultural business. Because Sinopec, the Chinese government, also has an agricultural arm of their business. I'm not sure what it's all about or if that's what it does, but it's a possibility. Maybe Sinopec will swoop in and buy up farmland after Trudeau forces bankruptcies through his destructive farming policies that he is starting to implement. Is this the real green climate change policy? You know, green as in greed and money and profits for political leaders and the elite? Why are these crops suddenly burning to the ground? What's the real reason? And all these processing plants that are burning to the ground as well. How much of Canada does the Chinese government own at the moment? What percent? How much will that increase in the next few years? And what about the US? How much of the United States does the Chinese government own? What's the plan there, Biden? And back to Trudeau when he stated that he wanted to phase out the energy sector, the oil and energy sector in Canada. Yes, maybe he wants to phase out Canadians and Canadian ownership because in actual reality, our oil exports have increased, not decreased in the past 10 years. And not just by a little amount. I had to calculate it and look at it a few times because I was in shock. In the last 10 years, our oil exports have increased by 100%. And our oil production has actually increased by 50%. So who's benefiting from that? Obviously not Canadians, right? Canadians are struggling. Who's benefiting off of this? We need to find that out as well. We need to keep digging because there's been no phasing out of our energy sector in Canada, but maybe it's just been sold to the Chinese government. When Trudeau first became leader of the Liberal Party, in his manifesto, he seemed to have a real obsession with China. Not to mention his infamous statement about admiring the basic dictatorship of China. Also, as part of his manifesto, he stated that since his family has historical ties to China, he would trust his own instincts when dealing with China. That child is way too naive, and his instincts are all wrong. That's what he has proven to all Canadians by now. I recommend Googling the Trudeau manifesto and reading it for yourself. So please don't forget that Trudeau has brought Canada to its knees with now over $1 trillion in debt. Doesn't it seem as if Trudeau is destroying Canada on purpose? At that rate, China could swoop in and just buy Canada, right? Buy our debt, buy bankrupted industries, businesses. But if we had increased our oil production even more, since we have the third highest oil reserves in the world, we didn't actually have to have any debt in Canada. We could have increased our GDP by increasing our oil production even more, because we're really only producing 1% of our oil reserves every year. And we rank 5th in the world for oil production. We should be at least at number 2 or 3 for oil production in the world, in my opinion. The United States is still the top producer of oil. China produces even more oil than Canada. And now we know what part of that reason is: Sinopec. Sinopec, the Chinese government-owned company in Canada. Now, wouldn't it be reasonable to put a halt to foreign governments and foreign companies buying Canada? Canada's resources, Canada's businesses, Canada's land, but it was the Liberal Party of Canada that opened that wide open. Trudeau had sent 16 tons of personal protective equipment like masks and gowns to China. Trudeau has also sent $256 million to the Asian Infrastructure Bank. Canada then needed to buy personal protective equipment from China because Canada was running out. Well, in researching about Sinopec, I found out that Sinopec had a factory up and running within days in order to make the melt-blown fabric for masks. This fabric is an oil byproduct. Sinopec was also producing millions of masks per day. So who was profiting off of all of this? I was actually really surprised to find that out. Let's look at this one last thing related to Sinopec. Look at this line here. HKSCC owns shares of Sinopec. They're private foreign investors. And here's my last conspiracy theory. Could HKSCC really be Hunter, Kerry, Soros, Clinton, and Clinton? As a group, maybe they're the ones that own these shares. Maybe they're the ones that own 32% of the shares of Sinopec. 3 billion shares. Well, if it's not them, I wonder who they are. And so here we are. When are we all going to realize that an out-of-control government with no oversight and too much overreach is an embarrassment to a free and educated people? In today's world, freedom is measured by the size of your bank account and the amount of political influence you hold over people through intimidation, blackmail, and also a genocide of a populace. And I'm going to ask this question again. Mr. Trudeau, exactly how much are you getting paid to destroy Canada?